For those of you who have not had the chance to be introduced to or know about the Youth Voice program, I have been with FMC. This is actually my second year. I'm going into my third year. Since I've come into the program, we've literally taking the term of amplifying the voices of foster youth to a whole new level through the many writing opportunities, our educational workshops, our different contests. I've created some paid contributor journalism roles. We have internships, and just so all of these opportunities that wasn't afforded to me as a former foster youth when I was emancipated from the system. Now that I have this platform, not only to amplify the voices of foster youth and empower foster youth, I also have the power to allow and help other foster youth use their voices to provide knowledge to those who operate and work in the spaces that could be potentially impactful to foster youth. And so again, I want to thank you all for being here today. If you would like to stay informed about all of the great things that we are doing over here at Youth Voice, all of our paid opportunities and paid roles, please feel free to drop your information in the chat and follow our newsletter. And then we have all of our social media handles as well. If you are interested in following us on our social medias, that is another way to stay informed about things that we are doing over here with the program. And so now you should see a quick survey pop up on your screen. And this is just so we could identify who's here today. How did you learn about us, so that we can do an even more better job with trying to promote our events, because the overall goal is to empower foster youth by allowing and using other foster youth and letting them tell their lived experience, their stories, their different life struggles that happen to them while they're in foster care. And over here at Youth Voice, we just feel like that this would be a good way for those who work in those spaces to learn. And what better way for you to gain knowledge from foster youth and about foster care than from those who've actually experienced. And so this is a quick survey that you'll see, and then you should see the survey results pop up as soon. And please feel free to drop where you're from, your name, your organization in the chat. If you're a former foster youth, we'll love to hear from you as well. If you have any questions from our panelists, we will get to those shortly. And again, we want to thank you all for being here. Yes, and so I see here we have some foster youth, a lot of social workers, which I absolutely love. Having social workers here at these events really means that you guys are trying to find different strategies and different ways to work with foster youth. Having foster parents here is also really, really good. We're actually getting into having more webinar conversations with foster youth and inviting foster youth to have engaging conversations with other foster youth. And so if you guys are interested, our social workers, our foster parents, our kinship parents, other foster youth out there that are on the call, if you are interested in being a panelist for our future conversations, please feel free to drop your information in the chat or send us an email to let us know, and we'll reach out to you because your perspective is definitely needed. Your expertise is definitely needed. For Foster Care Month, National Foster Care Month, we did a collaboration panel, and we actually had social workers who had lived experience in the foster care system now working with abused and sexually assaulted victims and those who have been abused in the system and experienced maltreatment. And so these conversations are needed. And while we always welcome and open our webinars, our webinars are open, to panelists who've had lived experience, social workers and the perspectives of foster parents are also needed. And so thank you all for filling out the survey. We really, really appreciate it. This will help us. And so, yes, I would like to take the time to not only thank our panelists for being here today and being vulnerable enough to share their experiences, but also introduce them all to you guys. We have some writers that have participated in some of our opportunities through Youth Voice, and now having the chance to re-engage them and them being panelists for this webinar is it's what all I could ask for. And so I would love to start with our first panelist. Her name is Shawna Newton, and she is 21 years old and has been through the foster care system and still is in the system. She is the part of the LGBTQ community and presents herself as a bisexual female. Shawna has participated in several of our panel discussions, and she's also one of our New York contributors who is currently going through a journalism curriculum that will teach journalism and has aligned and matched her with a potential mentor. And then so the next person I would like to introduce, who is also one of our New York contributors, her name is Nicole Sayer. Nicole has been in and out of the foster care system 5 times since she has been about 4 days old in 3 different states. She's entered the system the last time at the age of 15, and she aged out at 21. She was in 8 different placements. She aged out of the SILP program with a very poor transition plan and was put in homelessness shelters. Just 17 days later, New York was put into a state of emergency because of the pandemic, and the quarantine began. The shelter was a negative environment. Nicole was homeless and couch surfing until last August when she finally got an apartment. And Nicole has always wanted to create a reform within the foster care system for future youth. She's always been open about her life and her time in foster care, and she wants to get rid of the stigma, embarrassment, and guilt. She is not with the system, but is fighting against it. And so Nicole, Shawna, we want to thank you both for being here today. And then certainly last but not least, we have Jeremiah, who goes by Jay Perez Torres. Jay is a foster youth advocate and volunteers his time with Hearts to Homes, an organization dedicated to helping youth who are aging out of the foster care system in the New York City and tri-state area. Outside of his advocacy work, Jay is a graduate student who studies the impact of propaganda on the radicalization process of extremists, and adjunct professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Jay recently published an opinion piece, Opinion for Youth Aging Out of Foster Care, Housing Support is Crucial. And in this article, Jay talks about this transition period, the importance of housing stability, and some of his experiences as a youth who aged out. And you can find him on Twitter at J_Borkren, BORIKEN. And so, Jay, we want to just thank you as well. If you guys would love to read some of their stories, you can find them on the Imprint newsletter, the Imprint's website under the You Voice section. Okay, yes, I did see someone in the chat saying they have a question. Okay, perfect. If you have a question, please feel free to drop them in the chat or send them directly to the FMC link in the chat. So then that person that is operating behind us, who is Sarah, handling all our technical support, can answer your question. And so I want to just again thank our panelists for being here today. And so, yes, I would love for us to just jump right into the panel discussion. And so today we are going to be talking about transitional age issues that have impacted New York youth that have experienced the child welfare system in New York. And so also that has, a small bridge between, homelessness, also that has a small bridge between homelessness and transitional age issues, mental health issues, etc. So we're all going to be talking about that today. I just heard in the chat that someone is having presented. Let me see. I'm not sure. I think I'm back, and I'm not sure if my picture went out. It seems that we might be having some technical difficulties. If we are, please just bear with us. Oh, I see my picture. Okay, perfect. And so that is just in time because we would like to jump into the questions with our panelists. And so you guys can feel free to jump in as the questions relate to you. I'm so happy you guys can see me. That definitely makes for more personable, you know, representation of our program and myself. And so thank you guys for bearing with us through that technical era. But let's jump into the questions. And so I want to start off with Jeremiah. And Jeremiah, again, thank you so much for being here. And as a young male, really appreciate you being vulnerable enough to speak up about your perspective and share your experience with the foster care system, because a lot of males don't like to talk about their experience. And so we're hoping that by having you on this conversation, that not only other, you know, males will be interested in, you know, coming forth and joining us in, you know, potential future webinars, but we would hope that, you know, they would be interested in, you know, being more open, and we hope we'll create that platform. And so, Jeremiah, would you like to explain to the audience and briefly describe your experience in the New York foster care system and what that was like for you?
Yes, absolutely. So I formally entered the foster care system after being homeless around the age of 16. So before 16, I was essentially staying around my friends' houses on the street and things like that. And then I was able to formally be admitted into a foster care system. And then I eventually aged out. So the agency that I joined was Catholic Guardian Society, which is headquartered in the Bronx, New York. And yeah, so and then I eventually aged out at 21 while I was in college for my undergraduate degree. And so my experience was essentially, you know, I never got placed with anybody. That's why I aged out. And it was a really difficult experience connecting with my foster care agency and the people there. And yeah, I can get more detailed, but I would say that's sort of my history within the foster care space.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on graduating with your degree. And we love to see it. So next, I would like to pass that question over to Shawna. Shawna, could you please briefly share with us your background experience while being in the New York foster care system and what that was like for you?
Shoot, I don't know how I can explain this, but my life being in foster care, like in the beginning, it was rough because like it was the first time I experienced being in foster care and being away from family. So throughout my years being in foster care, I had to do what I had to do to take advantage of the system and get what I needed before I aged out. Right now, I'm still in foster care, so I'm still trying to, like, you know, push it through.
Yes. And, you know, I'm happy to hear that you're still, well, not happy to hear, but, you know, just to know that you're still in the foster care system. So you will be able to provide that perspective of what's happening right now and things that need to change right now. You know, some of the perspectives are going to be, you know, coming from, you know, our panelists just aged out or either already aged out, but you're still living in care. And so your perspective is definitely very needed. And so, you know, when I say like, I need you, like, you know, to, you know, speak up, you know, about and use your voice, you know, I'm so happy that you're always just willing to show up and speak out, you know, about the things that you experience in the foster care system. So thank you so much, Shawna, for being here. And so I would like to lastly pass that same question over to Nicole. Nicole, would you please briefly share with us, you know, about your experience in foster care while being in the New York system and what that was like for you?
So I was introduced to the foster care system in 2011 in New York, prior to being to 2 other states in foster care. And then I was reunified with my biological mother. And then I was again put back into the system the same year, and then reunified with my mother after 8 months. where then a few years later, I made the ultimate decision after being put into foster care again to just stay in foster care. And it was the better of two evils, I would say, than with dealing with my abusive mother. But at the same time, the trauma I endured while living in a system that was created under the status to provide stability for children, I felt like wasn't met. And as I got older, I began to recognize it. And I could have removed myself out of the system, but because I don't have any mentorship or I didn't have any families or anything to go to, I decided to, exactly like Shawna said, take advantage of the system and just stay in the system till I aged out, where I was ultimately put into homelessness. And then I created my own stability for myself.
Yes, thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing. And I always love having these conversations because it's just really crazy how we all kind of have these similar experiences, but we were in different states. Like, you know, like I was going through the same things over here in California, experiencing those same feelings and emotions. And so I really, really appreciate you, you know, for being vulnerable to really share the authentic, you know, and truthful emotions about, you know, the fears that you, and, you know, that what that was. I can only imagine, because I can't imagine, you know, what that was like, you know, but often that's not, you know, what is the experience of other people, especially those who work, you know, in these atmospheres and spaces that, you know, have, you know, that impact or could impact or should impact foster youth. And so I really appreciate that. So diving into, you know, the transitional part, you know, because they have these programs here in California, they have the IOP program, which is supposed to teach you like these different resources, how to write checks, how to grocery shop, all of these different things. And the class wasn't really resourceful to me. I saw that, you know, you mentioned SILP, which I'm assuming is the same, similar to what we have over here in IOP.
Yeah.
What was your transition? What was the transition like as a transitional age youth? And did you feel like that the resources that you were supposed to, that should have benefited you as you were emancipating out of the system, did you feel like you actually really received those resources? And I'll start with you, Nicole.
I mean, I feel like, so I was put into a shelter that was made for runaways and teens. And then what I didn't like is that the staff started to gang up and have, like, in a sense, like, they made it into a high school scene where they were ganging up on me and they were making rumors up with clients, where then I ultimately decided to remove myself from the program. And again, better of two evils, I saw myself declining mentally because I do have depression and other symptoms that I don't know. I just feel like it's like a pick and choose with staff. And then also I feel like they don't do enough where they put pressure on the kids. You need to understand like what this ultimately means, because they don't know, they're traumatized, and there's not enough, I feel like, they're not overseeing it enough at all. So there's a lot more I can go into, but I want to give everybody else a chance.
Yes, I know. I feel like that these conversations definitely can go over, and I definitely don't want you to feel like that you have to cut yourself off or like cut your voice off. So we definitely want to allow some time for you to get some final thoughts at the end. And so just hold on to that. All right. And so Jeremiah, I want to pass the same question over to you. What was your transition like when you were emancipating? Do you feel like that you received the correct services? Did you feel like you benefited from the services as a New York foster youth? And what do you feel like could have been done differently?
So I do not feel, I think I could honestly say I only benefited from one service, and that service was from a program called ETV. And that was because they provided some financial support while I was enrolled in college. So it's for college financial support. And I guess that's the only resource that I could say was easy to get in, like the organization was easy to get in contact with. It was easy to apply, and it was easy to get those resources as long as I proved I was in school. Aside from that, I did not have, when I aged out of care, I didn't have sort of like this this would be one of my recommendations, so I might bring this up later on again. But I didn't have like oh, now you're an adult, you're officially aging out of the system. What are your next steps, right? I didn't get to have any conversations with anybody that would allow me to sort of enter this world on my own, right? And then I guess that what made it worse is because growing up, right, especially in my teenage years, I had a lot of issues that I could connect to my foster care issues, but they were outside of the foster care system, right? So I had issues with the criminal justice system, right? I had some cases that I had to get resolved with, juvenile nonsense. But it was still a huge part of my life. I didn't have resources for that. So I didn't really get to take advantage of any programs or receive any sort of, aging out report with somebody from my foster care agency and says like, oh, these are the next steps. We're essentially just going to cut you off. Then that's how it felt, right? I'm not saying that everybody in the agency that works with foster youth feel that way, but when you're just cut off from an agency and there's no next steps for you, right? That's tough. So that's what that question makes me think of, the fact that I didn't get to take advantage of really any resources aside from the ETV program. And that wasn't related to my foster care agency at all. And I was just sort of left to fend for myself. And while I was already in college, and I guess I was doing well at that time, and I had, whipped myself in shape, I still didn't get those things. So it was tough. That transition period was really tough for those reasons. And I'll stop there because I'm sure I can make more comments later.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jeremiah, for your response. I really, really appreciate you again for being here as a male in the presence, and being vulnerable enough to speak about your experience. Because I know sometimes that can be hard. And we are open to you speaking and going more into elaboration later as much as you need to. And so, Shawna, I want to pass that over to you as well, because you speak very high, heavy about, your experience in the foster care system, in our previous webinar discussions. And so what was your transition like, and I would like for you to get specific, because, for some of our audience members who are aware of your transition and your experience in foster care, what were some of the specific things that you went through as you're speaking about what your transition was like, and how it impacted you and what could have been done differently?
My transition, I could say like it was hard for me because, like I said before, like I didn't know what to expect in the foster care system. Like I'm new, I don't know what's going on. I'm away from family, so the best thing I could have did was learn how to survive on my own. So it was times when I was in the system and I was being passed around from foster home to foster home due to fights or sexual harassment based in the foster home with, like the other kids that was in the home. I had to exclude myself away from the situation by me leaving foster care and living with somebody else that wasn't a foster parent. So I had to learn how to survive at that time. And during that time, it was like, I'll have my caseworkers text me telling me, oh, I could just age out of the system at the age of 18. And at that time, I didn't have no financial support, because how you want me to age out of something if I'm not mentally, financially, and physically ready to be on my own yet? I'm just giving myself some time before I come back into the system. And that's been going on for about 2 years. I've been in the same foster home where the foster parent was stealing from me. The agency didn't do anything about it. So that's when they decided to put me with a family member, which is my older sister. And even though like I'm aged out of care, but I'm still in the system, I could say I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, and I see you getting, emotional, speaking about your experience because you're like living in it still right now. Like, like although you've had, some transitions, you're still transitioning and, and so, having you here today really means and brings value to why, this creating a platform like this was important to me is because, now you can have the connection with Nicole. I can introduce you to Jeremiah. You know what I'm saying? And now you guys can be in this space. Like you guys are all in New York. Now you can have like some type of, make another connection with another foster youth that have had that experience. And then of course, you always have me. And so, I'm not gonna sugarcoat any of the system, capabilities or impacts on what it could potentially be for a foster youth because some of us are not set up for greatness. And those who are set up for greatness, like with me per se, I was getting ready to go to college when I was emancipating, but those 2 weeks I still was homeless because they thought I was good and I wasn't, and so, it's unfortunate, but I want you to use your voice and I want you to feel powerful when you're talking about the things that you experience because there is a foster youth out here that is listening to this conversation that's probably still in transition too, and some of us are mentally in transition, like we're still in foster care, even though we're not in the system anymore. And so your experience is definitely valuable, especially to some of the advocates and the social workers that are on this call, because you're in it right now. And so you're definitely special, baby. And so I want to just give you that because I sense that you needed like one of those little spiritual hugs right now. And so let's dive into, the support that you received in terms of like your employment. What was education like in terms of your mental health resources? What were those resources like for you, or how was those resources, or were they even afforded to you as you were transitioning out of the system, or as you're transitioning out of the system, have those things been afforded to you? And so, Jeremiah, I'll start off with you with education. I know that you said that, in terms that was something, your ETB was something that was separate, that didn't even have nothing to do with foster care, but you still got the chance to have that educational, opportunity. And so as it relates to foster care though, were there any education, any employment, any mental health resources that, or any other resources that I probably didn't mention, housing stability, programs, were there any resources that you did get the chance to take advantage of, or that you wish you got the chance to take advantage of, and why do you think that those things weren't afforded to you?
Unfortunately, I have a quick answer to that, and there were none. So that's sad. And the thing, like, I aged out, I think now it's 5 years. I aged out 5 years ago. So it's been some time, but not that long ago, right? And I think I'm glad that spaces are being created and new programs are being trialed, right? Like, I think I actually heard about Universal Basic Income program in New York City for foster youth. And I know one of the people that is actually working on that project, and it's just a trial program, right? And I think it's in its infancy stage, but there has been increased care, I think, given to foster youth and the foster care system as a whole in terms of what support services they need. So even though I didn't age out that long ago, while I was there really wasn't any services that I can take advantage of aside from the one that I had mentioned. So yeah, that's my quick answer, unfortunately, because I couldn't take advantage of any of them.
Yes, I hear you loud and clear, Jeremiah, and I really appreciate you using the word unfortunately, because, it is unfortunate. And so, Nicole, I want to pass that same question over to you. As it relates to foster care, was there any resources in terms of education, employment, mental health, housing, that you did get the chance to take advantage of or benefit from? And if not, why do you think that those opportunities or resources wasn't afforded to you?
I mean, the only thing that I feel like I took advantage of was like Chafee funds that they gave out, but like overall stuff that was needed at the moments that were the most necessary were not accessible. And I feel like in upstate New York, there needs to be at least more, or at least, like someone said in the comments, there needs to be, oh, how about funding for aging out? And I was typing, they don't even take care of clothing stipends when we're in the system. How about we get everything first situated? Like, I think that we need that. And I think that that'd be great, but they don't even have any control of anything that's happening within. They're getting child support from our parents. They're getting money, excessive money. So where is this money going is what I want to know.
I feel like I wanted to just like, you hit us with like some poetry right there. Like, you know, I wanted to snap my fingers, but I'm going to snap my fingers. Just love. And I love that you always talk with so much force and so much strong, because these are questions that need to be asked and answered. And not just like in the New York child welfare system, but like nationally, you know, like just literally overall. Because I wasn't even aware that, you know, the money, like how it even just operates, and like your parents being on like government assistance and just like all of these different things that we are not aware of. But then it's like, I'm only getting like $100 for a pair of shoes every 6 months. And then y'all are concerned about why I'm like stealing, or like, you know, why I'm engaging in criminal behaviors because I don't have nothing, or why I'm going to stores and I'm like, you know, stealing fruits and like vegetables and snacks, you know, because I don't have these resources. And so I think a lot of it is like the why. I mean, it's a lot of why, like, oh, you did this, but not like a lot of like, how come, like, you know, and it needs to be more, how come, why are these things impacting? And that's why there's platforms like this, so that we can have those conversations, and those who have those lived experiences can speak and attest to the experiences that they had. So hopefully we can not only try to make the New York child welfare system better, but the system better overall. And so I also want to pass that same question over to Shawna. While you're in the system right now, do you feel like that there are resources in terms of education, employment, mental health, housing that you are benefiting from? And if not, why do you feel like those you know, opportunities are not, or resources are not being afforded to you?
Due to like housing and everything, that's something I could benefit from, because I applied for my housing when I was 18. I'm still on the waiting list for 2 apartments with the agency. But as far as education, I was already in like, during like my 4th year in foster care, I was already in high school, but I had got kicked out of high school due to fighting and all this other stuff. So the agency had to find me another school. It took them at least 3 to 4 months to even put me in a GED program so I could get my diploma. I wasn't able to complete my GED program because I had anxiety and PTSD and all this other stuff. So the agency took it out on me because I wasn't able to complete it and get my diploma. So it's just like, how you get upset at me over like a personal issue I have going on with myself, and y'all keep telling me the same thing. Oh, we want you guys to do better, and we're just pushing you guys to do what needs to be done. That's not how I see you guys only doing this because it's your job and you guys get a paycheck. And as far as the money situation, for my allowance, I only got like 90 to 150, which wasn't enough for me because I'm a female. I need things. I need feminine products and all this other stuff. So when I go to the agency and be like, oh, why am I only getting 150 and such, it's, oh, that's how much you get on the paper. And that's what the paper says. Well, no, because I'm at the age where I need more than what any female needs. And every female that's in the agency or not still needs a certain amount of money that's going to help them in like the next 3 months. And as of right now, it's not, well, I don't want to speak for every girl that's in foster care, but it's like every female can't do a lot with $150, even if it's a stipend that you get every 3 months. Because my stipend was only $90 every 3 months, including my monthly allowance from the agency. So that right there wasn't really doing nothing for me. So I had to find a way to have money in my pocket to help me in the long run without depending on the agency for anything besides my housing. So, yeah.
Yes, thank you, thank you. And I just see the vulnerability in all of your responses, Shawna. And I just want you to keep fighting, you know, and keep. I know that it sounds so cliche, but like, you know, like you just gotta have that like one voice in the back of your head that just every day tell you like not to give up, like because somebody is out here fighting for you, and somebody is believing in you, and even those times when the moments when you don't believe in yourself, please feel free to reach out to me, any of you guys that are on this call, that just could use a little sense of motivation, because sometimes I need it as well. And so just know that we're here for you, love, and we wish you well. And so to my next question, and so now I want to get into providing, you know, the knowledge. You know, we talked about the experiences, how we could, you know, and I want to last, you know, as you guys see how I'm sequencing to these questions, you know, last I want to, you know, leave a little bit for foster youth, but let's get into, you know, giving advice to those who operate and work, you know, in environments that impact foster youth in the New York child system. And so for program initiatives like TAY, for programs that, you know, help foster youth or are supposed to help foster youth in New York, what is some advice that you can give to them that could, you know, make their program better, that can better help them help foster youth in the New York child welfare system? And I'll start with you, Nicole.
Starting with me. I'm sorry. My dog, she threw up, so I'm sorry. Okay. So I feel like, okay, when you're going into the system, a lot of people, they go into the system thinking they're going to save the world. You're not going to save the world. And you need to get this idea of a sugar-coated foster system that is like, essentially, it's like, I don't know, what they picture is going on is not, it's 10 times heightened of what's actually happening. There's kids that are being sedated by getting medicines up, like 15 meds. And it's just like, oh my God, oh my God. Like, I hate when people look at you and say, wow, that must have been so hard. No, really. And it's like, don't try to baby me because of what I've been through. Try to like guide me through there and be the mentor and be strong-willed when I'm not strong. So it's, again, I can keep going off on this, but I want to give everybody a chance.
Yes, I love that. And I appreciate your vulnerableness. I saw you getting emotional, and, you know, because it's passion, you know, and it's hard to talk about this stuff, especially when you like lived it and it's been hardcore, like, you know, dead in your face. And so, Jeremiah, to pass that same question over to you, what are some of the things that program initiatives like TAY, programs that are out in the New York system that are supposed to, or their goal is to support foster youth? What are some things that they can do to better help foster youth?
So, well, I Nicole, your comment, like I put in the chat, like I added to it. It was like the assumption that we need a savior. It really aggravates me. So I felt that. Thank you for sharing that comment. So from the last question, actually, I failed to. There was one organization, and this is going to lead to this question. So it was perfect. This question also works. But there was an organization that was based in one foster care agency, and The organization is named Hearts to Homes, right? And I was actually their first trial run because this organization wanted to expand and become independent so that way they can serve all foster youth or foster youth who are aging out of care. So really quick summary of Hearts to Homes. They essentially help furnish youth's apartment. So if you get a new apartment as a foster youth, you're essentially walking into an empty apartment, right? And that sucks. And there's a lot of work out, there's a lot of research and things out there that basically say if you can't, have a home, right? You're less likely to succeed in life, right? Just having a roof over your head is not enough, even though it is extremely important. So Hearts to Homes essentially provides all of the furnishings for individuals' apartments. I was their first trial run, to my knowledge, when they wanted to become independent. And now it is an independent organization, and I volunteer with them. And they serve about 27 different agencies in New York. They don't cover all foster care agencies yet, but I think there's only like 3 or 4 left. So I bring that up just to emphasize that I did get those services as well, and I failed to mention that. I was just thinking more about my experiences throughout foster care system, and this happened after I aged out, me receiving their services. And then to the current question, I think it's really important to continue to ask people, to continue to ask youth, what do they need, right? Instead of assuming they need X, Y, Z, or you come up with their whole game plan. I'm gonna have some recommendations later, so I'm gonna hold back on that line of thinking. But ask them what they need and don't reinvent the wheel. I think there's a lot of foster care agencies and people who have really good hearts that work in these agencies that don't know what their peers are doing, right? And like I see some resources being shared in the chat, and other folks who are working in this space, in the foster care space, they don't know about those resources, right? And if they're different from different geographic locations, that's fine. But if you're in the same geographic location and you don't know about services like Hearts to Homes, you can't use those services to support your youth, right? So I think an important, task is really to emphasize what services are being provided, and if they're not being provided at your agency, see how they can be provided at your agency so that your youth can be able to take advantage of them, right? Like Tashana's, she's aging out soon. When she does get her apartment, her caseworker should be telling her, well, there's actually this organization that can furnish your apartment for you, right? And this is just getting me thinking about those things. Know what resources are out there, and really put in that effort, because you don't always have to find funding, right? There's always this assumption like, oh, we don't have the money for it. Well, somebody else might have the money for it. So yeah, sorry for that little tangent, but that's what that question reminded me of.
No, tangents are welcome here. Tangents are welcome. And so, Shawna, I want to pass that same question over to you because right now, like I said before, you are obviously living in a transition right now and experiencing it head on. So what are some of the things right now that TAY initiatives could be doing to better support you? What are some things that the programs in New York could be doing to better support you as you are transitioning through the foster care system and, preparing to emancipate, fully and go out into the world on your own?
All right. First, I just want to agree with Jeremiah and Nicole, because every foster kid that's in foster care, they do need that mentor, not just somebody that's just reaching onto us thinking that, yeah, this person needs this and this person needs that, instead of coming to us and asking us, oh, so what do need to be done? Or what can we do to help you to get where like you need to get to in life before you age out of the system? So I feel like that's something that's like a big part that can help, because like I said, every kid in foster care needs a mentor. So, and then for me, like, even though I'm still in foster care, like, I don't have a caseworker, but I just need that big support that's gonna help me rely on when I do age out. So it's like, I don't want to be one of the foster kids that's in foster care and doesn't have nobody to rely on for extra help. So I think that's something that could be, you know, a big help.
I most certainly agree. And I think the mentorship part is really, really, really valuable. And I would love to see it really be a mentorship program of other former foster youth. And that's why, you know, having these conversations, having these different platforms and having other foster youth come out and speak up about their experiences so we can network and come together, you know, so that we could possibly provide these mentorships, you know, that mentorship opportunity. I think that I would have, you know, benefited more from having a mentor if my mentor had experienced foster care in the slightest experience, like just even if they was in foster care for 5 days, like even the short amount of time, like, you know, because then I would have been able to identify, you know, with them and they would have been able to identify with me. But like Nicole said, we don't want to be saved. And it's hard when you have someone, you know, after you experience abuse, abandonment, sexual assault, not only sometimes in your home, but then they take you out of your home where you're not even being sexually assaulted. And then they put you in homes that are supposed to be like protecting you. But then that's where all the bad things happen, you know, because I definitely would have fared well and much more better in my home. Like if they would have gave the money that they paid my foster parents to my mom and employed her with some more resources, I would have been straight. And I definitely wouldn't have had experienced some of the abuse that I experienced while I was in care. And so I really, really, really appreciate your response. All three of you guys' responses to that question, because that's literally what it's about. There are social workers on here. There are advocates. There are CASA workers. And not only while this webinar is dedicated to New York specific, you know, this information is valuable and can be used universally. You know, these experiences are valuable and can be used universally. And so I appreciate all three of you guys' responses. And so I want to pass this on and continue this advice train. And so what is some advice that you can offer to the foster parents, the resource parents, the foster parents that are in the system that are trying or not trying, you know, to help foster youth, you know, navigate through the system and come out of the system, you know, not successful, but at least on a road path to success? What is some advice that you can provide to those foster parents, to those legal guardians, to those role models, you know, that are, you know, the kinship parents? What is some advice that you can provide to them in terms of, you know, best practices to help foster youth moving forward? And I will start with Shawna.
Okay. Oh shoot. All right. My bad. I got hungry. But I really don't know. Cause some foster parents, like even if they knew to being a foster parent to a foster kid, and they don't know what to do because they're new, and so is the kid, but you can always reach out to the agency for extra help and see what can you do and what can you not do, instead of just nitpicking and guessing on what you need to do for the foster kid. Because some foster kids, they could react off how you treat them, is how I'm gonna put it. So like they could react off of that, and then I don't know. It's just, I really don't know.
Yeah, and that's an honest answer. Like, you know, right now you're like in transition, and I'm definitely going to make sure I connect you with Jeremiah, and I'm going to make sure I connect you with Nicole too. So now that you can have, you know, like that, have a connection. You can have somebody in New York, in addition to me, you know, that you can rely fall and ask about resources. Like Jeremiah knows a lot of, you know, different programs, and so we're gonna get you right. We're gonna get you right, because I hear it all in your voice. I hear it in your responses, and I really, really, really appreciate you being vulnerable. And so Jeremiah and Nicole, both of you can feel free to jump in however you best see fit. What is some advice that you would like to offer to the guardians, the kinship parents, the resource parents, the foster parents, the parents, the play parents? What is some advice that you can offer, offering best strategies and practices to help foster youth?
Well, personally, okay, we are not brand spanking new. We are not a toy off the shelf that's never been used. We are traumatized. What you would do with your own biological child is how you need to view us and treat us. If you're not going to give up on your own blood, why are you going to make the commitment to be a foster parent and give up on us when things get rough? You know that trauma is in the details, but there's not enough in the workshops and what is actually taught. It is children in the foster care system are raised, okay, so not to say every child outside the foster care system is raised like this, but a child is raised with their dynamic family that's one mental, either a single parent, two parents, maybe grandma, aunt, whatever. That's only a limited amount of guidance. Now, when a child is raised through the system, you have numerous different guidances telling them what's right and what's wrong. You have staff that's in a group home that keeps overturning. They don't have any consistency. The only thing consistent to them is maybe one item, their bed. That bed might not even be consistent because they keep moving from place to place because they act out. And then they're put into secure facilities because that's the solution. And then you wonder why they act out in the end. I don't know. That's all.
So yes. So everything you both said. One thing, I'm also very agitated with, this constantly cycling of people within our agencies, right? I can't even count on my hands how many caseworkers I've gone through. And I do want to recognize, especially for those caseworkers that care, the ones that are on this call, the ones that are not, that I don't know. I know that in many instances, you all need a lot more support than you get from those agencies, and that sucks too. So I do want to recognize that. But though the constant cycling of new people, that's really tough on us. So I just wanted to add that comment. And to the specific question, I think perhaps one of the most important things that you can instill into foster youth, recognizing everything that Nicole and Shawna said that you should recognize, is making sure they get the ability to speak up for themselves and be comfortable with asking what they need, right? Because we're talking a lot about needs through all of the questions that we discussed so far, through the questions that are pouring through the chat, and I'm sure for the rest of the conversation, we're all talking about needs, what we need, what should be done, and how you should interact with us. So for those parenting foster youth, I think it's really important to say, hey, speak up, and even for shy people, right? If a foster youth is shy, find an alternative to make that happen, right? I think it's important because once they learn that they can ask you questions, they can speak up, they can share their frustrations with you, maybe about their situation, right? In your house, maybe something's wrong. I don't think that might be like common sense advice, but I don't think people realize that doesn't often get done, right? So I think, so yeah, I'll leave it at that. I think you really need to get your foster youth that you're parenting, get them to be able to speak up for themselves, be confident in doing that, and share what their needs are. Because if they never share, I've never shared, and I've gone through a lot of different traumas that, I'll bring up references as we go through this conversation, but it made me worse off in the long run, and I wish I had shared things that I haven't, right? And I kept inside. So get them to speak up about what they need, what their issues are in your household, right? Because they live in your household, so they're a part of it. And there might be things that are going on in that household that they're not comfortable with. for whatever the reason, especially if you have, your own children in the household. So that's my biggest advice for parents.
I love that. I really love that. It's definitely about creating a safe space, because often we don't even know what a safe space is, and so sometimes we run away from things that feel too good to be true. I know I've experienced that, and so I really appreciate all three of you in response. And so before we jump into some of the questions that we had in the chat, and if you are in the audience, again, we want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being engaging with us. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, because I'm going to start getting into the chat questions very soon. So lastly, but not least, as it relates, because of course, the overall purpose of me, and my desire to create and do consistent webinars through the Youth Voice program in this platform, and actually reach out and engage foster youth. These are not topics that we come up with as a program. Like, I actually am having conversations with other foster youth. I'm asking them the things that they want to talk about. When you guys fill out your post evaluation, please feel free to put in different topics that you would like to see, because I actually listen and pull from those discussions, and then invite those foster youth with lived experiences that have experienced those issues to speak firsthand about those, the different accounts and the different, experiences that they had. And so the overall goal of this workshop and platform was created to empower foster youth. There's a foster youth out in the world that can potentially be listening to this right now, or will be potentially watching this recording. And we want to always make sure that they walk away with a set of advice, especially coming from us, the people of the horse's mouth, I would say, in a good term. And so what is the advice that you have for foster youth in the New York child welfare system right now, in need of resources, in need of support, in need of stability? Maybe they're not in need. What is some advice that you can offer a foster youth right now that could potentially be listening to this call and need some motivation, need some encouragement, empowerment, need to hear us speak about these, these topics, so that they can, know that they have a voice too, and feel inclined to speak up about it, whether it's through this program's platform or all of the other many platforms that other programs provide. What is some advice that you have for foster youth? And so, Nicole, I'm going to save you for last, because I just know that it's just going to be very, very, so I don't want to cut you off. I want to give you this time to have all the thoughts that you had, especially from the first question, because I know it's been burning. So we're going to save you last. And Shawna, I want for you to start off to answer that question. And then Jeremiah, you can feel free to jump in, and then Nicole will end with you.
All right. So my advice for foster youth kids is take advantage of the system and beat them at their own risk. Even if they're not helping you get what you need to get, still try to take advantage and seek for help other places. Because sticking in one place that's not doing anything is really not gonna help you get where you need to get to. So my advice is just take advantage and do what you gotta do for yourself. So.
I have a few things. So my advice for foster youth on this call, or who may watch this recording, is actually similar to the advice that I would give foster parents, and that is speak up for yourself. And I know that's difficult, but sort of like the three of us have been provided this platform to share our thoughts, experiences, etc. It doesn't always need to be on this platform, right? It could be to your caseworker, it could be to your parent, to whoever, to a college counselor, right? Because wherever you're at, a high school counselor, just speak up, because if you never speak up and you keep it in, it's harder to get those issues addressed. So I guess that's my most important advice. And I think when I learned that, a lot of good things started happening for me. So I'm very grateful that I learned how to do that, but that was not always the case for me. So that's my main advice. And my second thing is, needs are always different. And maybe you just need somebody to bounce ideas off of and brainstorm what your actual needs are. That way you can address them and find the appropriate avenue. And I'm always welcome to have conversations with people, one-on-one, to speak with me, whatever it might be about, right? So I'll offer that as well.
Wait, I have something else. So, for the last part that Jeremiah said, for anybody that has questions, I am open to give you the best advice that I can and help you through the steps in foster care. Even if it's not the way I went through it, I will still give my best help and help you lead the way, because yeah.
Thank you, Shawna. Thank you, Jeremiah. So Nicole, please feel free to jump in with your response. I know you're just dying to tell us.
I just want you to not lose faith in yourself and who you are. Don't allow the stigmas and the opinions and the viewpoints of everyone around you to create this image of what they're representing. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just continue to be yourself, continue to persevere through everything, and don't allow them to keep you stupid. Even though the system is designed around that, allow yourself to exceed and know that there is greater opportunities to come to you, and just to take it one moment at a time, because shit hits the fan. It always will, and it will get rough, but you got this. Just keep persevering.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, you guys. Such great advice, such great responses to foster youth in helping them, better navigate, and just needing that, having that extra support system is always just an extra plus. And I like Jeremiah said, like Nicole said, like Shawna said, I'm also here as well. I'm an active mentor. I got babies in Minnesota. I got babies in New York. I got babies in Texas. Please feel free. And I shows up. I'm actually getting ready to travel to Minnesota for one of my former Youth Voice contributor baby showers. Like I literally don't play. And so it's like one of the things that I would leave before we dive into our audience and attendees questions is just to really show up. Like if you're working in these spaces, and I guess I can speak from passion because I actually have the lived experience. So like I'm not just talking about it, I'm like walking the walk too as well, because I actually was in the shoes and I lived it. Like really show up. Like if your goal and your job is to advocate, really advocate. If your goal and your job is to be a mentor, really do that. Like if you're employed to be a social worker, despite the caseloads and all of the things that may have happened, in your everyday life, show up for these kids. Like literally that one person that like literally showed up for me, my social worker, I always shout her out, Jean Torres. Like I thank her, like, because like without her, out of all the social workers that I had, like who knows what would have happened to me, like, or who knows what, like, direction I probably would have went to, and although I always was like, strong in my will, I guess, we all fall short. And so that's just my advice to you guys, is that, when we fall short as foster youth, just be there to, be that one person that's going to be there to pick them back up. And so I want to thank everybody. I want to thank our panelists for being here and for answering the questions. I do want to dive into some of the questions that I saw in the chat, because they were really, really good. And before I do get to that, you guys should have saw a post-evaluation drop into the chat. Please feel free to respond and fill this out. This is just going to let us know what we could be doing better, how I could be doing better as a program leader, facilitating these webinars, what type of topics you would like to see in the future. If you're a former foster youth and you're interested in sharing your experience, this is a way for you to also let us know. Social workers and foster parents, we will be doing some upcoming events dedicated to also you guys joining in on the conversation and bridging that gap between foster youth and parents and social workers. Please feel free to drop your information, on this post evaluation form so that we'll be able to reach out to you. If you are an organization in New York, I have so much opportunities and program funding for New York. We are interested in collaborating to host workshops. We have some paid journalism opportunities, like the role that Nicole and Shawna are in right now. And so please feel free to fill out this post evaluation. It just kind of helps me know and understand the program a little bit better and what I could be doing as a leader to really make sure that I'm amplifying the voices and doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And so thank you. Again, I want to thank my panelists. If you guys could just stick around, I want to dive into some of these audience questions. And so there were about 5 of them that I pulled. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get to all of them because I definitely want to make sure that I talk about our next event. But one of the ones that I did see is that someone said that they would like to hear ideas on how foster parents can help teens learn adulting skills when teens don't want to participate because they don't think they need it or don't trust the person that is offering the support to them. And one of you guys can feel free to just jump in and answer the question if you want to.
Okay, so for that question, for anything that the agency gives you, for any agency to help seek resources, even though if you don't trust it, still go, because you never know what you might learn and what you might need in the long run. So my advice to you is to go learn something, and maybe it might help you, maybe it won't, but I advise you guys to go and just learn something new instead of saying, oh, I don't want to go because it's not good for me, or I don't think I need it. It's not, don't always say you don't think you need it, because everybody's going to need something to help them in the long run.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Shawna, for that answer. And so in regards to mentors, because we talked about mentorship and the purpose of having a mentor, that resource, not being afforded to you, what is the importance of having a mentor, and why did you guys think that having a mentor is important? And when you did have a mentor, how long did you want them for, was one of the questions that the audience members asked.
I'll go for it. So I think, well, mentoring is that's a really broad category, right? So I think how long you want that relationship for depends on what you're being mentored in. So it's hard to recognize that as, sort of a catch-all question, if that makes sense. But so I would say my most important mentors have been folks that I've had in school and my educational counselor at my foster care agency. So I would say in my foster care agency, really the only 2 mentors and connections I had that were really strong were that educational counselor. And so shout out to her. Her name is Francine Willock, and she used to be in Catholic Guardian, and then my lawyer at the time. Those were my 2 mentors. They fought for me. They, gave me advice on things to do. So that's my general thing. So I appreciated those relationships. And for mentors I had in the future that I have now and that I have had while I've been in college, during my undergraduate and on my graduate school, it's always like, what am I needing mentorship in? And again, that determines how long that relationship was. But I would say overall, those are lifelong. If you build a good relationship with these individuals, that's a lifelong relationship that, I guess you should expect, even if you're not helping them on a daily basis. So I hope that's some sort of an answer for that question.
Going along with what Jeremiah said with connecting, that's very important. I've had numerous people look me in the eyes, hold my hand, cry to me, I'll be there forever. I'll be there for you, knowing that I don't have any family, knowing I don't have any type of supports in place. Now, that is more traumatizing because the person that I was supposed to, like, I already know that they're not going to give it to me, but now the person who's supposed to, you're giving me false hope. So it's just setting me up for more failure and more self-image thoughts of why am I not enough and this and that. But learning to love myself, I've learned to love not being enough and not being enough for everyone. But I think that with mentorship is taking true initiative, taking, like, actually doing it, and don't half-ass me just as much as you wouldn't want me to half-ass you. I'm not a toy. I'm a person just as much as you, with the same emotions that you hold.
And
Yes, so powerful. It's always like a snap. You got to snap your fingers after you give a response, because you definitely drive the points all the way home, and you guys all do. And so Shawna had to jump off because she has another engagement, but we definitely want to thank her for her support and all of her wonderful responses. If you guys have any questions or anything that you guys would like to reach out to Shawna about, please feel free to drop your information in the chat, and I can share that. I can share it with her. And so I want to just thank all of you guys again for being here again today. Thank you to our lovely panelists for being vulnerable enough to open up about their experiences and the things that they have experienced while being in the New York child welfare system as they were transitioning from out of the system into adult life. I want to thank all of the professionals and the advocates, the social workers, the foster parents that are here, because having you guys here helps keep these conversations moving, keeps the relationship and the goal, which I'm trying to do, is bridging the gap between resource and foster parents and social workers and advocates and school officials, and just hearing the authentic truth and the raw conversations and experiences from foster youth so that you can better learn how to support them and advocate for them and empower them. And so please feel free to drop your information in the chat if you would like to stay in touch. To stay informed about more events like this, please follow our newsletter. We are interested in all of our opportunities are paid. Our writing opportunities, our panelists participating today will be paid. I definitely have made it so that all of our program participants, whether it's a contest or whatever, is paid through. And so your support definitely helps you voice. And so if you're interested in supporting us, please feel free to let us know. And I will gladly reach out to you to let you know how you can donate. We're in the midst of hosting a backpack giveaway pack for your future event for LA County high school and foster youth that are transitioning into college. And so we are going to be donating 200 backpacks that have been sponsored by Doing Good Works. And we're going to be, our goal is to decorate 20 college dorm rooms. So if you are interested in donating supplies, if you are interested in helping a foster youth, through any monetary donation, $5 support, donating a pack of pencils, please feel free to do so. And then also the day of the event, which is going to be August 13th at Jefferson Park High School near Lamarck Park. We'll be looking for volunteers and vendors too as well. And so if your program is interested in coming out, being a vendor, please feel free to let me know. I'm going to be putting my email in the chat. And if you're interested in learning more about our opportunities, more about all of the great things we're doing over here at the Youth Voice program, I would love to speak with you. And I'm dropping the Amazon wish list into the chat. So if you're interested in donating right now, and if you feel compelled to buy a pack of pencils, I guarantee you that you helping one foster youth and the support will go a long way. And the reason why we wanted to do a backpack event dedicated to high school students and college-bound youth is because most of these events events cater to elementary schools. I know that elementary youth, middle school youth, I know that when I was going to these different events, when I was in the system, you know, often the shoes are too small or the shoes are too big. There's never nothing really right for us. Those in high school, the older youth, the seasoned youth, they kind of forget about us. And I wanted to make sure we dedicated an event to those foster youth who are, you know, like that want to, you know, lock in on their education, but need resources. And so if you're interested in helping and supporting, please feel free to do so or reach out to me to figure out and find out how you can donate. And so I want to let you guys know about our next event. If you have participated in our previous panels, this is going to be a part 2 discussion where we'll be talking to foster youth who were placed in the system because their parents were either incarcerated or deported. And if you attended this event, the first part 1 discussion, you will know that it was a thrill and a chill. It definitely was a great event that left, you know, others wondering and asking questions. And so we decided that we thought that this conversation was so good that we wanted to do a part 2 discussion and invite new panelists to speak to their experiences so that, you know, we can ultimately try to, you know, change the system. You know, I'm just a former foster youth trying to, you know, do as much as I can with all of that I can, and with all of the support that you guys are have offering us and helping us. We are greatly appreciated. I see some people in the chat asking about recordings. This will definitely, recording of this will be forwarded to you in your follow-up email that you're receiving shortly after this webinar is over. I want to go through because I did see some questions specifically. And if you have time to hang out and jump off, please feel free to do so. But again, I just want to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you so much to our panelists for a powerful conversation. Thank you to everyone that decided to show up, that asked questions, that dropped their information in the chat. Literally, this is what it's all about. We're trying to serve, we're trying to protect, and we're trying to empower, you know, foster youth. And so by any means, you know, I greatly appreciate all of you all that attended today. And so I did see, I thought I saw someone ask me a specific question in the chat, but it's like a lot of different things jumping in now. If you have any questions that I possibly may have missed, please feel free to just reach out to me. I'll drop my email in the chat right now. Other than that, we want to thank you all for joining us today. Please feel free to follow us to stay up to date on all of our different exciting events and all of the things that we have coming up moving forward. We want to thank you all for being here today. If you have any questions for our panelists that we might have missed that you want them to answer, please feel free to email me and I will make sure that I get them those questions over to our panelists. And again, if you're interested in donating, your support helps events like this. It will support all of our initiatives as it relates to paying our foster youth through all of our paid opportunities. And so again, I just want to thank everybody for being here today. This is what it's about. And thank you all again. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you, Shawna. Before we close out, let me put my email address in the chat so you guys can all have it. Please feel free to reach out to me. All of our opportunities are paid for, including our workshops. So if you have foster youth in your program that want to write, that are writers, they want to write and they might not know how to write, or, you know, just need someone to pull that out of them, please reach out to me so that we can coordinate and set up some time, some dates, prepare a plan to put together a workshop so we can amplify the voices of your program participants and empower them. And then we have these 2 wonderful platforms, the Imprint and Fostering Families Today, both of our sister programs, which we get the articles published on. And our Foster Families Today magazine outlet goes to resource parents, foster parents, guardianship parents, caregivers, kinship parents. And so if you're interested in subscribing to that, please feel free to do so. All of this information will be provided to you in the follow-up email. Again, I want to thank you all for being here today, and God bless everybody. Thank you.